Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have on board today two folks with St. Albans Town, Jonathan Giroux, the Select Board Chairman, and Corey Parent, the interim town manager. Corey, have I got that right?
That's correct.
Welcome back to St. Albans Town.
Yeah, it's been an exciting few weeks. Of course, never really left as a resident, so
you're still a resident of the town?
I am, yep.
Interesting. Jonathan, again, last time I saw you were, I think, leaving the set to make some calls about an interim town manager with Sean Adkins having down to a week or two, and Sean's left after a couple of years. So, again, you got your interim town manager. Corey, I guess the first obvious question, some interest in the permanent job, is that something you would consider?
No, I haven't applied for the permanent job.
Haven't applied for it.
You know, I do consulting with other municipalities and government affairs work. And, so this kind of fits in line with the work that I do, but you know, it's a great job, but you know, I've got other things going on, you know, that would be hard to get out of in a short period of time to take on a full-time job.
So in fact, you're not applying for the permanent job?
I am not, no.
So you're still working as a Leonon Public
Yep.
Affairs?
Yep.
Interesting, and that's been a pretty good fit for you.
Yeah, it's been great, you know, working on a lot of cool projects. I helped found Let's Build Homes with Moreau Weinberger, and we've pushed some pro-housing legislation and, you know, helped build this CHIP program that's going to unleash up to $2 billion worth of infrastructure investments across the state of Vermont for the next 10 years.
Huh. Wow, sounds like so you're still working for those folks.
Yep.
Interesting. So John, so you got your interim town administrator. Jonathan, what's the hope for a town administrator? Are those ads out now? Have you got?
Yeah. So tonight at 4:00.
I should know we're taping the show on Thursday, August 7th.
So we have some interviews tonight at 4:00.
Oh,
we
really?
have 3 candidates. I think they're pretty good. They're pretty. There's a broad. There's a lot of diversity there. They're pretty different, but
Folks from Vermont, out of Vermont?
yeah, we have 2 somewhat local. One's local, one like in Vermont, and the other one's out of state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're going to get better candidates than we did last time.
Interesting.
It
So are these the
seems like
3
that.
finalists or just 3?
No. This
not
is
at
just the first round of.
Really?
Yeah, our HR manager Aaron Clark selected. We've had more than just the 3 candidates apply, and he kind of does like the pre-interview process and selects them for us, and so I think we're gonna find somebody relatively quick. I hope.
Yeah, and quick being in the next month or two?
No, probably it'll take 6
Later,
months or
longer than
so.
that.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to rush it. Like, we're not in a big hurry. We got Corey to run the operation for now, so I think we're good on that.
I think you're in pretty good hands at the
Yeah, I
moment.
think so. Yeah, we have a pretty good understanding. You know, he usually runs stuff by the board before he goes and acts on it, just so we're all on the same page, which is nice.
Corey, you're former, Director of Operations for St. Albans Town, kind of
Yeah,
an
I was.
assistant town manager job?
Yeah, I did that for a couple years under Kerry Johnson, and yeah, so I mean, like I said, coming into, you know, it was theoretically only been gone about 3 years, and at the pace local government or any government moves, that's not that long to be gone the way things go. So
And it sounds like you're paying attention to all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff anyway, and it's part of your other job.
yeah, so we know what's going on, and so just stepped in and, you know, just looking where, you know, things just need to get tightened up and get caught up on a few things, and, you know, push some projects forward, and, you know, other than that, just be a resource for staff as they keep doing their jobs.
In that 3 years, what's grabbing you as you're back immersed in St. Albans Town again? Anything, you know, kind of grabbing you, any big differences or anything kind of jumping into your mind about, you know, coming back in after a 3-year absence?
Yeah, I mean, I really think the Public Works Department is professionalized really well in the last couple of years under Dave Allerton, and now with Kevin in charge. You know, they've done a really good job planning projects and executing projects and having a good game plan. I mean, they've got a pretty aggressive summer this summer with the culvert at French Hill Road. You got your regular paving. You've got a culvert on Fairfax Street. 2 large stormwater projects that'll help you know, us meet our flow restoration MS4 permit requirements. So. You know, they've got a really busy summer, and they seem in a really good spot to execute it.
Jonathan, you had very good words. I think we had Dave Allerton on the show once, but very good words, very good job by him when he was PW director for the town.
Yeah, he left us in a good position.
Yeah.
Those culvert replacement projects probably should have happened years ago
Wow.
on Fairfax Street and French Hill. Those are being done. We're going to be reclaiming 12 inches of pavement on French Hill, kind of on as you go up the hill to where they redid some by Fred Lake last year. So that's going to happen later this summer. Then they're going to do the line striping. And so Kevin is taking Dave's place, like Corey said, and he's doing a fantastic job also. The Tanglewood projects had a few road bumps,
Yeah.
but we're working through those, and we're going to make that stormwater pond as our first big project. We're going to make it, come out perfect when we're all said and done.
So did you have to kind of redesign that or do some changes to Tanglewood?
I think it was a little bit of both. Yeah, there was some design work, and there was some other.
Yeah.
There was some other water that wasn't taken. They didn't see it until they started the project. There's some tiles coming out of the ground, and there's a lot of variables up there. It's a pretty unique project.
Really?
Yeah, and then that major few days of rain we had this spring, I think, opened their eyes to,
Yeah.
what they could get right this time instead of wait for a big storm in a few years after it's quote unquote done.
Right.
That's right. So in retrospect, should that housing development not have been built as it was? Was there too much housing in there, or not the case?
There's water coming from the sash. There's water coming. Water comes from everywhere, and it kind of just gathers there. But there's a project. I think the city and the town are involved together, right in that area to take some of that water also. And then there's some up by the Four Corners that's going to happen in the next year or two. So that'll alleviate some of the water that's going into Tanglewood now.
Yeah.
But as for now, the way the project's designed, it should handle anything that it's thrown, any water that's thrown at that project.
Yeah. Corey, town government, does it get more complicated by the day? Again, you've been out 3 years and stuff. You notice any?
Yeah.
I assume this job doesn't get easier or less complicated.
Yeah, I mean, there's always complications, and I think, other levels of government make it that way. Just the amount of sign off. I've worked on projects in other towns, and you gotta go, if you're getting federal money, you gotta go through a federal NEPA, which is their, think Act 250, but at a federal level. Well, that takes 8 to 9 months to get. They say 6 months, but I can tell you it takes 8 to 9 months to get through that, and then you get through that, and then you got to go out to follow their requirements for bids, and then sometimes you got to hit prevailing wage, which is a federal standard. So then you end up spending a lot more on a project. So when you look at it, you got a $500,000 grant, and you might have spent $400,000 more on the project than if you had just built it. So it's not net. So it's they put a lot of strings attached on stuff, and we see the legislature do the same thing in Montpelier. They'll put a good grant program together, and then they make you follow 4 different ways of accessing that money, and so it really it reduces the impact that the money could have. So I think it's complicated because people make it complicated, and they're putting more and more of those requirements on money that municipalities depend on. So you're constantly spending most of your time just making sure you're complying with 20 pages of rules versus just building the project, because most people around here, especially, construction, you do this. Building a sidewalk's not a hard thing to do until you get state and federal money into it, and then just all the strings and the things you have to do to get it signed off on.
Some of the seeming chaos at the federal level with funding, I mean, you hear about tariffs every day. Any effect on St. Albans Town on funding? Does that come down to the town level at all? Not at all?
No, we don't really get any federal funding. We got that large slug with ARPA. But that was a one-time kind of stimulus deal. Yeah. I would be more interested to see what impact cuts at the state level, because the state, like our stormwater project at Clyde Allen Drive, we were able to get state grants to get that built. What's the state going to have available for municipalities in the years to come to do some of these projects? And
for roads, again, sidewalks you mentioned, paving and stuff, that may come into play. I mean, if the state gets less money, that obviously affects you guys.
Yep.
Correct.
That hasn't happened at this point anyway?
No.
Yeah. Talking some paving this summer? You got kind of regular paving to do?
I can't remember the roads, but I know French Hill is one of the bigger projects. I know as a board we said, okay, let's try to get French Hill taken care of.
We've been dealing with French Hill for
years. The guys did not just the big culvert replacement on the east side, but they've done a bunch of ditching and cross culverts where they're gonna be paving this year just to get that all ready.
Yeah,
Because what they've done in the past has held up pretty nicely, so we're gonna continue that stretch up there.
so it sounds like French Hill should be back in pretty good shape here after this?
I would say, yeah, I think there might be one more stretch to repave, but other than that, I think it'll be pretty much completed.
I've talked to I guess, Swanton Town folks, and the section, right when it gets into Swanton, sounds like that's been a very tough section for those folks to deal with too, Corey?
Yeah, no, I think it's a tough place to pave and do work. I mean, you got pretty good elevation and slopes, and probably a road that was path at one point that never really got built
Yeah,
to standards like we would today. So you're, in a lot of cases, you're digging up and rebuilding, and just like stormwater and Tanglewood, we were talking about, the hill sees a lot of water, and that's why we got to get the right size culverts, and then just get the water through, but also slow it down as it's coming down the hill.
bumped into Mitch Montaigne the other day. Has the closing happened on the former town hall?
No, we had some issues about an easement on the parking spaces, so now, like everything that goes through local government, you gotta have the 30, 45-day warning period. It's like,
Really?
so it's just the closing will happen, I just think it's gonna be extended another.
But it looks
over
like that's
30
not a
days.
major.
No.
We were ready to go to the closing table, and then
Huh.
an attorney wanted something corrected, but to make that correction that everyone agreed to
Well,
requires the 45-day warning. So
Yeah.
you're looking at mid-September now.
yeah. Talked to Mitch briefly, and because he's talking some apartments, and he quickly said, "Rich, it'd be nice to get a city sewer line down here." Is that we've talked about that maybe every show. Does that sound like that's getting some discussion about that? Does that come up at meetings?
Yeah, we just talked about that Monday night,
Yeah.
because Corey presented a bunch of different projects with bullet points, and for one of the examples was a stone house. Last Gangus gave us like 5 options, I believe, and we could do this or that, but the one, the replacing the roof, I don't think is really gonna pay off. Like last time we got a quote was like $800 and something
And
thousand
of course,
dollars.
this is a slate roof.
It's
of
slate,
course.
and it's got to match the same pattern, and it's a lot of work, and the understructure, some of it's rotted out anyways, and it's like, so what are we gonna do? So the vision of I think the town is to have that stone house more of like a year-round building. That's what we've been told, and so we're trying to go that avenue, and Laz says anything you want to do in that building, it won't be year-round. You can't any more fixtures because of the septic system, so we said, well, we kind of agreed as a board, we need water and sewer there before we do anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you're limited to 5 toilets and 2 sinks.
Yeah,
So
is that
that's not,
right?
yeah, that's it. We can't do anything other than that. So we don't really want to put a whole new septic system in if 5-10 years down the road, we're
Yeah.
going to have water and sewer,
Right.
So I think that one of the focuses for the town will be water and sewer down that Route 36 into the Bay Area.
Yeah. And you see that in coming years? Would you put a rough time frame on that? You think that'll come soon at some point?
I wish could happen tomorrow, but that's not, not feasible at all. So I think, probably within 10 years, realistically.
Yeah.
And I think, this new CHIP program, they're writing the rules on it, so we're waiting to see how it gets implemented, but that's going to be an opportunity, like the city's done successfully with public-private partnerships, and, can the town work with a developer and land that would help us get water and sewer down there, but use, CHIP, what CHIP does is it's a project-based TIF, a lot less complicated, but allows a single project to use future tax revenues to pay for infrastructure.
Okay.
So if and then it has to have a public benefit. Well, a public benefit is anything that gets us closer to the bay,
Yeah.
because that's what the public needs, and we've heard a number of projects that need it. So the goal, I think, will be identifying the once we kind of have the rules and see how the program's going to work, identify the parcels and work with folks to try to get some housing projects which will fit that need, and then pay for infrastructure to go with it.
Rough price tag on getting water and sewer to the bay? You got any, we're talking like 5 to 10 mils, somewhere in there? Any very rough?
Significantly more than that.
Is that a lot more than that?
Probably in the $20 million range.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you got pump stations. It's quite a bit of
Wow.
work there. So that's why it's not something we're going to go, it's not feasible to go bond, but between federal funding, grant funding, CHIP, there might be an avenue to piece together.
I mean, you have some decent LOL money, local option tax money. I mean, that might
Yeah.
come into play for that.
Yeah, I think we have like a little over $2 million in
Really?
there right now. We get like $1.2 million a year. So and
Wow.
I think we only have allocated 250 or 300, right around in there.
So I mean, that sounds like a pretty good revenue source you could tap for something like that.
Yeah, we could. But the CHIP program's nice because it does bring in housing, and you could do like mixed commercial, residential with it. You know, like storefront. You could do it. There's a bunch of opportunities with that program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity it would have never fit a traditional TIF, but it allows us to really start to understand what that model looks like, from where it ends now around Beauregard Drive down.
So at some point, you would think, I mean, you would predict that in the future that'll happen at some point, like likelier than not, you would think, water and sewer?
I would
to the
hope
bay?
so.
You
I would hope so. It was so funny because I drove through the islands the other day and I saw
Yeah.
in Alberg in front of the old boatsmith guy. It looked like they were putting a water main down through there.
Really?
And I'm like, it looks like it was going to the campground. I can't remember the name, Goose Point campground.
Yeah,
but I'm
Goose
like,
Point, maybe.
I'm like, it's time for the town to get some water and sewer throughout the town.
Interesting. Any other places in the town where, I mean, it sounds like the bay gets most of the attention in the future for water and sewer lines? Any other particular place in the town where you would like to do that, extend city water and sewer lines?
I mean, I think anywhere you can, because really the key is with water and sewer, the way our bylaws are written. Once you have water and sewer there, we can get a lot more dense housing, and
Yeah.
you're not looking at 1 acre minimums. You're
Which
getting
is what the town has now?
Yeah, when you need conventional septic.
Okay.
And that's more of a science thing, just to make sure there's room to put in a mound and have your well, but you don't need that room once
Yeah.
you have water and sewer lines.
I did interview City Manager Dominic Cloud the other day, and he said the wastewater plant that the city put a lot of money into some years ago, I think he said there's capacity for that if it happens. Boy, Dominic, one of your more veteran city managers in the state, I can only assume. 15 years or so, Corey?
Yeah.
You'd know that.
Yeah, Montpelier just let go
Just
of
lost their
Bill
guy.
Fraser just left there.
Yeah,
I mean, city manager jobs don't typically last much longer than
yeah.
5 or 10 years. It's just one of those.
Yeah.
They kind of run their course, and either someone moves on or people are looking for a new perspective. And Bill was a 30-year veteran, so Dom might be the most senior at this point.
Interesting. Interviewed Freddie Hayes, the new young town administrator for Highgate. Yeah, impressive young lady. Kudos to her. At 24, got a pretty nice job.
Yeah, and she came out of Shelburne, and
Right, was working in Shelburne for a while.
the town manager there, Matt Lawless, everyone seems to have good reviews for. I've worked him on a few things, and seems really like a good guy. So I think she's got a good mentor, and and him still back in Shelburne, and so it's a good job for her.
Yeah. The former Public Works garage site on the bay, speaking of the bay, Jonathan, any solid plans for that? I mean,
Hopefully we have an RFP out
yeah.
soon for engineering services to develop that into a boat launch.
So that looks like the very likely thing that's going to happen there.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the water and sewer stuff is gonna take, let's just be realistic, at least 10 years
Yeah.
to get down there. So
Yeah.
in the meantime, let's do something with it, If we
Yeah.
if at some point we decide to put a building or something else there that needs water and sewer,
Yeah.
we just take the pavement up. We're not tearing down the building. So I
Yeah.
think that's the best use for that right now.
Again, the lake's pretty low there. Hasn't that been a concern for?
I think it is. I've owned boats throughout the year and been in there. Like, it depends what time of year you're at,
Yeah.
but there's possibility of dredging a little bit because if you only go less than 100 yards out, you're in 8 feet of water.
Oh, you're in
like,
good
it's
shape.
It's not.
Oh,
So
really?
and it might not be like a 30, 40 foot boat launch. It's probably like a 21-foot boat launch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But at least it alleviates some of the congestion at the Hathaway Point boat launch.
Which gets crazy on a busy summer day.
Yeah, and I've had to remind people who say that the old DBW site might not be big enough for boat launch.
Yeah.
The Hathaway Point one's 1 acre.
Is that right?
We have 2.2 acres.
Oh, really?
And Georgia Shore Road, so it'd still be potential to be, provide plenty of alleviation and hopefully
Yeah.
get those trucks off of Hathaway Point Road
Yeah.
once built.
Yeah, no, that's always a concern. Yeah, I get out there pretty often. I was back at Kilcare yesterday, got in some swimming, which I wasn't faring too well with last week. The lake had a tough week last week.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kilcare was back in swimming shape yesterday. The Bay Park's certainly getting plenty of attention. the great Thursday event with the farmers market with music. I guess, again, we're taping this show on Thursday, August 7th. I guess we have the Bash at the Bay this Saturday, August 9. Is that a new event?
Yes.
I didn't think I'd recognize that.
Yeah, it kind of replaced, they had a brew fest, and so this kind of replaced the brew fest
Okay.
feel for it, more family oriented and such.
Jamie Lee Thurston, I happened to catch Jamie Lee's last song a couple of weeks ago. Used to deal with him in my old radio days a
Yeah.
little bit, but big crowd and stuff.
Yeah, no, very popular. It was a good event.
Yeah. Bay Day went pretty well. That was another decent Bay Day.
Yeah, I wasn't on board yet, but I came on right when Jamie Lee Thurston had his event.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the parks have been events have been really good this year. Good attendance. The team's always looking for ways to improve them, but is very happy with how things have gone this summer.
Yeah. Boy, Cohen Park, a great place that I neglect. And of course, some of my friends said, Richard, please don't talk about Cohen Park. Don't try, I did play tennis here long ago, and of course, the tennis court should have been a little longer. Was that corrected at all, or is that just the way it is, or is it pickleball now, or?
I think mostly for pickleball.
Pickleball probably
seems to be
works
the
better.
use.
There wasn't a lot of room to run and back for a tennis ball, as I
Well,
recall.
that project was never engineered to begin with.
No, is that
so
right?
If it's messed up.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah, that one. But yeah, no, Cohen Park I think is the nicest park in the town's repertoire.
Although swimming's not the easiest, is
No,
it?
not with the rocks, but it's a beautiful, quiet park that
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
get
a
used a
great
lot.
place.
Yeah.
Great place.
Yeah, we held my son's birthday party there last couple of
Really?
years. And
Wow.
Yeah, we really like it.
Any other park news in the town? Bay Park, the dock. People ask me about the dock periodically. I mean, the dock's a dock. At some point, the town had taken a serious look at upgrading that, but I'm sure it was a lot of bucks and stuff. That's not.
Yeah, I think that's kind of on the
now.
back burner as far as
Yeah.
right now. I think when just before Dave Allerton left, they were going to put some kind of a gate system up a little better than what we have besides those old catch basin things there. But
Yeah,
as far as anything else, I don't think we're actively working on anything.
yeah. You mentioned Kevin's last name, the new PW director. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I
I
was
should
almost
know off
thinking,
the top of my
don't
head.
I
ask
think
that
it's
question.
Mick Lear. It's MC.
McLear,
Yeah, McLear.
Okay, sorry. I
No, you're
questioned
fine.
whether I should ask that question.
Yeah.
And how many candidates did you get for that job?
I didn't. I wasn't part of the interview process or anything.
He wasn't already.
I
on
think
He was
board,
there-
was he?
hired June 1st, so
Yeah.
he was,
Oh, yeah.
he
Under
was new before I
Sean.
joined.
There was I think there was quite a few applicants,
Really?
but us as a board a few years ago, when Alan left, we decided that due to the stormwater complexities,
Yeah,
we needed somebody that was an engineer.
yeah.
Because with the stormwater projects, at least our own engineer can look at them and say,
Right.
well, that's not right. And we had Emily Sherrington that
Yeah.
worked for us, and she would do the same thing. I don't know if she was quite an engineer, but she knew what, so she'd pick stuff apart all the time
Yeah.
that would save the town money. So moving forward, we said we want a public works director that is an engineer.
Yeah.
It helps with every project. It just makes, so you don't have to wait for the engineers if you have questions, like it works out.
And Dave Allerton is
Yeah.
an engineer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and David actually worked with Kevin in a previous job
Oh,
before,
really?
and he's told me, when I talked to him about the hiring of Kevin, he goes, I was really excited when he applied for the job. I think Kevin had worked for the federal government,
No, really.
doing some projects there beforehand, and had other private engineering and public engineering various roles. So, including Tanglewood, he was kind of the one when he started seeing the water flow at Tanglewood, he put the brakes and was like, well, we could
Really?
design this
Yeah.
better. We're better off to
Yeah.
slow this down, adjust a few things, and get it going. And very sharp guy, and very mild mannered. So good to really good at talking to residents about issues. And we toured that community, that neighborhood with him, and he's really good at communicating with folks.
So it sounds like PW department, he feels in very, very good shape.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
They're busy, but
Even before the historic agreement with the city a while back, sounds like the PW, Public Works Departments between the city and town always seem to work together pretty well also.
Yeah.
yeah, I believe so.
City, speaking of said historic agreement now, a little over a year in place with City PD covering the town. I think City PD is doing a decent job in the town, Jonathan?
I think so. I mean, I see them periodically throughout the town.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing active patrols anywhere, but I don't think that's really in their contract.
Yeah,
I mean, I believe last time I checked, they're fully staffed.
or at least, yeah,
So-
fully staffed, or at least pretty close
Pretty
anyway.
close to it, so, yeah.
Corey, your thoughts on City PD? You think that's working okay for the town?
Yeah, I think it's working as well as the end of the contract, if not better than when the sheriff's contract was running out. So I think it makes a lot of strategic sense. I know city-town relationships seem to be in a good spot. I've talked with Dominic since coming on the role, and
Yeah,
very cordial conversation as we start to gear up to build budgets for next year.
yeah. Street crimes unit is up and running again. Sounds like they've had some success so far.
Yeah, they've had a few busts throughout the city.
Yeah,
I think they've had one or two in the town also, so.
yeah. It sounds like the public safety issue may be a little less concerning to folks. Even I went to the meeting that attracted, about 300 people a year or two ago to City Hall, and I guess from what I read or hear, it sounds like maybe the situation seems a little better. You got that sense, Jonathan, or any sense on that?
I don't know. I just drive up Lake Street and there seems to be less activity. So
Yeah.
I think it's either the street crimes unit, I think people have said, it just pushes it out, to other municipalities.
Of course, that's what you hear if
But it's definitely cleaned up the streets a little bit, I would say,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Corey, any thoughts on that?
I think last year's spike was a combination of a few things. One, I think you kind of whacked a bee's nest when you cleared that woods, and I think that's where a lot of those folks were living and hiding, or at least weren't in sight, and so it's kind of it had to settle a little bit, and then I think the street crimes unit and the city PD taking it seriously and it has helped, and hopefully to I'll stay out of my former realm of state politics, but probably need changes there to truly make it effective long term.
Yeah. Anyway, obviously always an issue of concern. Any encampments in the town at this point? Homeless encampments?
There might be a couple. I don't know if we're having any issues currently. I
Yeah.
mean, I know we said if we see them, we want to take care of them before they fester into something large, like the one we had down behind Brandon's pools down in the
Yeah.
back there. I went there and toured that
Is
one day.
so there were a bunch of people
Oh,
down
that
there?
was big. Yeah, there was a
Really?
lot of stuff in there.
Wow.
It was. You couldn't see it from like the overhead view.
Wow.
Like it just looked like a couple tents, but once you went down into the trees, it was like a little community down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Corey, you periodically talk to Dominic, other area city managers and town managers
Yep.
and stuff?
Yeah. Dom and I had a meeting last week, and just opening communication, and it's gone well so far. I worked with Dom a little bit when this CHIP program was going through the legislature prior to working on this role with the town. So
Yeah.
city was fairly supportive of it.
Any housing in the city? The city has certainly done some number of housing projects. Any housing projects in the town? Again, I guess we're down to septic again without
Yeah,
municipal water or sewer. We're not talking any major projects, I guess, obviously.
it's different. The town's more greenfield development. They come organically in the town. There's a good size townhouse development coming from the DRB later this month up off Parsons. It's gotten a little publicity, but I think you've got a unit with townhomes. That's kind of they wouldn't be rentals, is my understanding. They'd all be sold off individually. So that's a pretty good sized project. And then I know there's some projects planned right here in Franklin Park West to build another 50 units.
Oh, another 50.
Yeah. So those two projects, if they kind of go through as that's 130 new homes,
Wow.
and that's significant. The town's added about 25 homes a year the last couple of years. So to have 130 in the pipeline,
Oh.
theoretically not counting random one build here, one build there, I think we're in pretty good shape there.
And it's easier for folks with, easier to turn like a single family into a duplex. Is there some issues or some things like that going on too? Didn't the legislature do something about making it a little easier to add a another unit or something?
Yeah, they did. I mean, the town's never.
Accessory dwelling units?
Yeah, accessory dwelling units are allowed. You're also, where there's municipal water and sewer, have to allow up to 4 units wherever you allow a single-family home.
Oh, really?
Honestly, the town was always pretty pro-housing and had pretty good bylaws to that effect. They adjusted them a little bit to meet that standard, but the town's pretty good at, if you've got an idea, to build housing and trying to work with you to get something done.
Yeah. Corey, you spend obviously a lot of time in Montpelier with your other job. I mean,
Yeah.
a ton of time. Back to housing. I mean, the stat I hear, and you're on top of this stuff, but it seems like I'm hearing the state could ideally use another, 45,000?
30,000 housing.
I mean, is that a figure that you buy?
Yeah, I do, because I think what people don't understand isn't just new housing. There's a lot of housing in disrepair in Vermont that is way out of code, out of date, not on its last leg, that you have to replace that as well. You also, when you look at that number, it's having the right housing at the right time for folks, right? Young folks come out of school, they either get an apartment or something small. If you think about it, we haven't built 1,200 square foot home. My first home in the town was on Potter Avenue. It was a 1,200 square foot ranch.
Yeah.
Nobody builds those anymore, and that's that good starter kind of end home. So
Is that right? People they're not even bothering with,
Well, I just think we built rules when you have to buy an acre of land, or in communities, even with water and sewer prior to those changes, you have to spend a lot of money on land. So are you going to put a small house on it, or are you going to build a big house? And I think that's part of it. But I think. We'll get there. Our community is supposed to build a couple hundred homes between now and 2030. The goal is to get there. I think more housing helps on a lot of fronts. That's how the town raises revenue.
Yeah.
Property taxes for the schools and the town. To keep those flat or try to turn the corner, you need more homes or more grand list growth to pay for that. And so I think housing would be good for the community, and even businesses. We've talked to. There's one restaurant chain that I was talking to this summer. We just don't have enough people for them to consider coming to the town.
Really?
And so if people, you see whenever a restaurant comes to town, they throw out names. You want those names to come to town. We need 20,000 more people, because they just kind of set we need this many people, and if that doesn't they just don't even come in and look at land. They just they within a geographic area, they need to see certain number, and each restaurant's different, but that's the kind of when you're looking at economic development, people help with that too.
Of course, that was a long ago expectation for the Exit 19 area. Of course, there'll be someone will start a restaurant there, and I know nothing about the restaurant business except how tough it is, but just Collins Pearly, it kind of blows my mind that nobody's jumped in there, but there was rumors of Denny's here for a while, but I'm not sure they were accurate rumors. And
Yeah, I
of
think
course,
that
Denny's
was-
is now gone out of South Burlington.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But all those chains, they require, like I said,
Just
either
a
a certain number of
numbers
traffics.
game, obviously.
Yeah, and so the way they look at it is, on average, 4% of the population. They look at stuff like that, and then they build their business model to that. So.
So you're not surprised the restaurant hasn't set up shop
until
by
you.
Exit 19?
I just think you need. If you think about it,
Yeah.
the Georgia to Swanton area with St. Albans Town, St. Albans City.
Yeah.
Swanton in Georgia is about 25,000 people.
County's about 50,000.
Yeah, and so you got 25,000 people sounds like a lot, but
Yeah.
if you need 400 people a night to come into your restaurant to make it work,
Interesting.
you got to maybe have 100,000 people, and
Yeah.
small cities. Those 4 towns would be considered a small city in most places.
Yeah. Speaking of Exit 19, I guess AOT, Agency of Transportation, is moving ahead with Rotary Roundabout in a couple of years. Is that not too far down the road?
It was 27, wasn't it?
Couple-
I think it was
couple of years or
27,
so?
I think it's a couple.
But that's a solid plan. That's definitely the
Yeah,
plan at
that's
this
the
point.
plan. Yep.
That,
sure.
that makes sense to you guys?
Yeah, they came down and presented it to us. It was probably over a year ago now,
Yeah.
and everything looked good. There's going to be. I like the roundabout thing. I love them. I think it keeps
I grew
traffic
up with one in
moving.
Massachusetts. I'm used to them.
It's great. It's
yeah.
just, I think once you get used to,
Yeah.
they're great. It keeps traffic moving. I just think they're great. The ones up in Lamoille County, we went through those a couple months ago. And
Yeah.
you don't stop. You just keep going. It's great.
Interesting. And the one down at by the Bay Park, that seems to work okay. That's been there for
Yeah, forever.
quite a while. Juvenile detention, didn't the state was hoping to get a facility, a juvenile detention facility with Woodside down and out for years now. In Virgins, Corey, that seemed like, it seems like I saw a story that was dead, or did that come back to life again? Is the state still?
I
Not
haven't
on
followed
top
that
of that.
story, no, so I don't know what they're doing on that.
Of course, the issue came up in St. Albans Town a while. That definitely got some people out for a public meeting.
Yeah, I still don't understand why people are so against stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I really
Yeah,
don't.
It happens every time. I was on Senate institutions my last term in the Senate, and
Yeah,
they fund these projects, and I think I forgot what town we were looking for in central Vermont, but similar to the opposition. But to Jonathan's point, my family comes from Malone, New York area, where they are pretty economically depressed, but the best
Wow.
jobs there are the prison. I mean, they create good jobs.
yeah,
The state pays a pilot to the community. We host the prison here. There's revenue there. So,
yeah.
but if the residents fight it, the state isn't looking to invest in those communities. But I think whatever community ends up taking that from the state will probably end up with more than their fair share of economic development funds and infrastructure funds and all of that. I think there's always deals to be made with the state on that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at. I was looking at, if they come in, can we get water and sewer down Lower Newton?
Wow.
Well, there's water, but we need sewer.
Yeah.
That's a perfect opportunity. Swan had that opportunity years ago. I think it was the work camp that came in. My uncle tells me about
That didn't sound like a bad idea to me.
No,
but yeah.
Swan, I forget what the deal was, but Swan gives a ton of stuff, but
Yeah.
there was a few people that didn't want it,
Yeah.
and they, did a couple
Yeah.
campaigns to go run against it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the prison actually has a sewer treatment plant, small one.
They do have their own plant, right?
And the city runs it, is my understanding, so it's just, you could expand that.
Yeah.
That could have been a way to get sewer to the bay,
Wow.
so those are, I think long-term planning, when people look at an issue in a micro sense, that there might be other things tied to it, and so when people are like, why would anyone even consider that? Well, what are you getting for it?
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. You don't get, long ago when the prison had a lot of security issues, and that was quite a while ago. But you don't get a regular update on what's going on at the prison. I mean, typically no info.
No, not, I mean, with COVID, there were updates on stuff, but no, it's
Yeah.
kind of one of those, no news is good news on our
Yeah,
front.
Greg Hale used to send over,
Huh.
I think it was Kerry, he used to send over a report quarterly, and then he'd come in like once a year. I mean, if you ask him, I'm sure he'll
Yeah.
come down,
Yeah.
but I don't think
What
there's.
kind of no news is good news, I guess.
Right.
I guess it gets in the news a bit these days with some of the ICE detainees end up at Northwest State.
Yeah. It's understanding.
Beta, I guess Beta Technology is probably the biggest economic news in St. Albans Town for a while. And are they gradually expanding their workforce? Have you got any handle on what exactly is going on out at the old Energizer plant with Beta?
I don't.
That's a good point. We should probably have Tim Smith down for an update
Yeah.
on that stuff. Like I said, I've been in a real few weeks here.
Yeah.
There's a few other things in the hopper we're looking on that Sean initiated that are still too early to talk about publicly, but are exciting opportunities potentially. And with economic development, it's kind of like any kind of sales job. You look at 15 opportunities, 3 have legs, and then 1 makes it to the finish line.
Yeah.
And so I think there'll be increased need for that. I think as the economy changes, there might be new players looking to do things. But Beta is the last large one. We've had progress with, but we still have anyone watching, we still have a lot of room in our industrial park, and we have industrial zone land the town owns behind Public Works facility.
You kind of mentioned that. You do. There are still a few
Yep.
lots in there.
Yeah, I don't think a lot has sold in a significant amount of time in our industrial park.
Wow.
So when I hear Chittenden County talking about, take Amazon, for instance, they ended up at Champlain, Essex didn't want them, we would have gladly have taken them.
Have you, I'm glad you brought that up. Have you had any, Freddie Hayes mentioned that Highgate, I guess, has expressed a little interest.
Yeah.
I know Georgia did.
Yeah, we expressed interest,
did.
Sean did, and then I did
Yeah,
as
really.
well. But
Any reaction from Amazon?
they just, I think Champlain was their ace in the hole with Essex not working out.
Oh, really?
New York State's much friendlier than us.
Certainly, I've heard that forever.
Not even just the neighbors next door. It's they're rolling out the red carpet, bringing.
Oh, so you're way ahead of me on that. What a surprise. So Champlain looks like they're going to get it.
Champlain, New York. That Amazon
really?
announced that like 2 days after Essex told them no.
I guess I missed that somehow. Interesting. So Champlain.
Yeah.
No, I've always heard New York's an easier place to do.
Yeah, and I think it's actually, some people were like, oh, Amazon will hurt our local business. I actually think it would have helped our local business. Think of all the producers
Really?
here that would have had a facility to drop off and sell their products on Amazon.
Yeah.
Maple producers are, that's all beneficial and, to get your product out to the world.
Interesting. Speaking of that part of the world, Billy Jones has been in the news. Someone you know, the longtime assemblyman from New York.
I didn't know Billy, but my mom and dad are from his district. My uncle's a superintendent over there.
Really?
Liked Billy quite a bit.
Sounded like a very decent guy.
Yep.
Just resigning, I guess, very soon after a bunch of years in the New York Assembly, and I guess I got a good job at Clinton Community College.
Yep.
Saw him on the news last night, but anyway. Legislator, you're dealing with local legislator. Of course, you're in Montpelier a lot. Corey, you feel like local legislators are helpful to the town stuff? Are they on top of things?
Yeah, I've personally never had an issue with a Franklin County legislator.
What are you gonna tell them?
Yeah, they all work well with us.
I hope the Vermont Republican Party appreciates Franklin County now.
Yeah.
13 out of 13 Republicans.
Yeah. It's nice to be in a nonpartisan role at this point in my life. But yes, they are. They're helpful. They asked what they could do. I know Representative Dickinson was helpful. Sean and I talked actually this year while he was there. The state was looking at some changes on local option tax stuff and then pilot, paying towns more for their pilots, which us with a few state parks and the prison
Payments in lieu of taxes.
payment in lieu of taxes. So that would have been very beneficial for the town.
Are the towns now getting a little better deal on local option tax money? That kicked up
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah,
I think
that
it's
was-
82%.
Yeah.
82%.
Oh, really?
So that helps more, and so that was beneficial. I know Lynn Dickinson and Casey Toof and Joe Luno were all helpful. Those are the three that represent our community, and as well as Senator Brock and Senator Norris.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can throw out some news here, and I'm sure you're way ahead of me, but we'll see what happens. Not an election year, but Craig Rainville, former Judge Craig Rainville, planning to run for the Senate in Franklin County next year. Probably no news to you. You're probably well aware of that. And he emphasized to me, Richard, I'm going to be running as a moderate Democrat. I know Franklin County, so we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
of course, this last election, I've been up here forever. That was the first Senate election in which there wasn't a contest. First time ever in my long Franklin County tenure. Senators Brock and Norris had a free ride. That had never happened before.
2020 was probably the closest thing we had to it during COVID.
Yeah. With all your time in the legislature, I got to ask you about H 454, the education reform. Boy, legislature really struggled with that big time. Your thoughts on that? Do you think they can? And they've got a lot of work still to do, obviously. Any quick thoughts on that? Were you dealing with that issue yourself?
I was not. I'm glad I don't have to have an opinion on that stuff anymore, Richard. I'll leave it at that.
So you had no personal dealings with that. Any thoughts on that? On how they did with? Just seems like such an overwhelmingly tough issue to me to figure something out. But maybe that's just me.
It's a tough issue. It'll be a politically unpopular issue to fix our education system, but it's. I think they got the best deal they could politically get.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot more adjustments in the years to come.
Yeah.
And then, I think taxpayers are going to continue to ask for that. If the legislature doesn't act next year, last year's tax increase is going to seem like a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And there's no federal money to bail and buy that down next year.
Boy.
They didn't adjust the cost, so.
The affordability issue just is never going away. Just sounds like you run into just people just kind of, I hear it on WVMT every morning. I can count on one or two callers pretty much saying, I'm out of here. Give me another year or so and I'm heading south. But does that come up in conversations, Jonathan, or?
Well, when I scroll through Facebook, I see it once in a while.
See it on Facebook,
yeah.
maybe.
But a lot of that stuff doesn't have any validity with me either.
Yeah.
But I know the taxes are ridiculous. I know, like, I have properties in other towns, and it just, The
Have you-
towns wasn't too bad this year, because when we did our budget, initially Sean came in at like 8%, and I
Yeah,
said, the
you
board's
said
like,
no
no way, we're not gonna do it, like, because
Wow.
we don't know what the school tax is gonna
Sure.
look like, so I think we came in just under 4,
Is that right?
is what, because it's the healthcare cost just
And of
drives
course,
that
police,
budget.
just
And, well,
police
that was
salary.
baked in from the year before
Okay.
anyway, so that
Okay.
was, but anyway, the biggest increase from the year before was the health insurance.
Right, another,
I'm
Efficient.
guessing it's gonna be the same next year,
yeah.
you know?
Just on the affordability issue, Corey, I mean, is there any real hope down the road? It sounds like the best people can hope for is just not a big increase in property taxes every year. It seems almost inconceivable to me that it could ever start going the other way. Am I crazy?
No, I think, like I said about the restaurant, we need more people,
Yeah,
and we need more homes, and we need more I mean, Vermonters, it's, that if you want to pay for things, you got to have revenue coming in the door, and the way to create revenue is getting more people working, and more people here, and more people living here, and paying taxes and sales tax, and you can spread that along. I mean, look at what the LOT has probably saved property taxpayers in Vermont. We know it has, or in St. Albans. Maybe we wouldn't have built the projects we built, but millions and millions of dollars, and
I was paying for the newish town hall and
Yeah.
public works garage for
and
starters.
and some sidewalks and some other things. So
Yeah.
that's an example where growth can help pay for things. I think just as a broader region and state, we have to focus on that and not make it so hard to invest here.
Yeah.
Again, Amazon, that would have been more property taxes, more sales tax, more all these things, and now it's in Champlain.
Were you surprised that there was so much opposition to that in Essex or not? I guess I wasn't totally surprised.
No, because I mean, we got people on one hand will complain about the high cost of housing and then fight the house or the development next door.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, so
Interesting.
they're all connected.
Yeah.
I know people look at them very isolated, but it's all connected.
Yeah. New firehouse issue, is that getting much discussion? That's a plan for the future anyway?
Yeah, it's still on Matt's list of projects. He's the chief of the fire department.
Yeah.
And yes, now that Corey's here, some of the projects that we kind of like put the brakes on, we're gonna start, going through the emails and see where we're at. And
Yeah.
That's definitely a project that's gonna happen.
I guess the question, when it's come up before in earlier shows, at the same site, is that not clear whether you've got enough room? Would it be the same site or not clear right now?
That's not 100% clear right now. We got some things in the works, but I know the fire department wants it there, and it's probably a good spot for it.
Yeah.
But with having it there, it would help us bring water and sewer to that point, and
Yeah.
continue on down the road to our downtown district.
So likely it stays here, but not nailed down at this point?
Not nailed down. No,
How soon do you think you'd be moving on that? We're not talking this year, I assume, for that?
I wouldn't think so. I
Wouldn't
think
think
that
so.
with just the engineering and construction and permitting, you're probably looking at 3 years, probably. I'd
Yeah.
say roughly.
Yeah, if that was the focus, and we worked on that
Yeah.
from now between acquiring land and
Yeah.
going to Jonathan's point to get the engineering and the permitting done, getting voter approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking at 2-3 years before that.
Is that right? Boy, things don't happen quickly here, huh?
No, because the voter approval thing, depending on when you finalize everything, then you gotta have,
It's in March or
Yeah.
November
yeah,
if you catch the right year.
if you miss it, then you gotta
Yeah.
wait another 8-9 months. Because I don't think we'd ever hold a special election, spend all that money to try to,
And special elections usually are low turnout.
Yeah.
It
Sure.
can go the wrong way on you quickly.
right. And it doesn't represent a good,
voters.
the voters. It just you get few people that vote. We get a few people that vote during regular elections,
Yeah,
anyways.
so you don't even, again, you're the former, you guys are the elected officials. Turnout, that would just get me so frustrated when you think of all the people who don't vote. It's amazing. Well, that might come up at next March town meeting next year, possibly, or that might even be pushing it.
I
for-
think that's pushing it. I think
Is that
it'd be
right?
the following
Maybe
one.
for the fall election.
Yeah, probably at the earliest.
Merger, anybody ever talk? I mean, when I ask the question, the fire department seem to do well together. Any merger talk between city and town fire
No,
departments?
I think everybody's happy where we're at.
Yeah,
You
of course,
know,
Matt
yeah.
Mulharen is chief for both departments,
He
right?
sure is.
And I did note, I guess, St. Albans Town Fire Department, speaking of the town FD, has a 50th year celebration coming up.
Coming up, I think,
Let's
next
see.
weekend.
Yeah, we're good. And that's about, when I showed up in town, I can remember that was obviously big news back then when the town broke off from the city. Very, very big news.
Yep.
Anyway, so the fire department, equipment-wise, it sounds like you certainly keep up with that pretty well.
Yeah, we have a truck coming. Well, I think next year.
Yeah,
It's
it's been
supposed to come-
ordered next year,
yeah.
year
Oh,
after.
right.
Yeah.
Fire trucks take a while now to
Well,
come in.
that takes years, right?
Yeah, you buy them and you get in line and wait till they come through. Yeah, so ladder truck's a couple years old. They have a pretty good replacement schedule. Again, the towns have been doing a sinking fund there for almost 25 years, I think.
Huh.
So the town doesn't borrow any money when they buy a truck. The voters years ago said, this X amount goes into the fund every year, and
Yeah.
they've been doing it that way. And the department's always managed that fund pretty well to make sure they have nice new equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put 125,000 in there. We raised it from 100 to 125, I believe.
Yeah.
When Chief Cross was the chief, he came to us and said, "Let's raise it $25,000
Yeah.
more dollars." That was just after COVID, when everything was going through the roof,
Yeah.
and we're like, "It's gonna fall short at some point." So we got ahead of it.
Yeah.
It's just nice to plan ahead like that. It's nice to have the money that we can plan ahead like that, so you don't see those big spikes in your property
Yeah.
tax.
No, it sounds like you've kept up pretty well with that.
We actually did it at Public Works, speaking of how well it's worked in Public Works similarly. That passed, I think, 3-4 years ago, and similarly, so when the town gets a new Public Works vehicle, there's no loan on it, there's no spike in, we gotta find
Yeah.
$100,000 for a truck. It's been put aside, set aside every year, and, some years you can buy a few pieces, some years you gotta save for a few years to buy the big piece. And
No. Again, your old job in the town, operations director, is Al Vochel still doing that part-time a bit, or is there?
No.
No, is that position still in town government or not? No?
Nope.
It's gone.
Yep.
Interesting. I mentioned sidewalk. Is there more sidewalk work coming up this summer? Any sidewalk work?
No work this summer. We're applying for at least one grant this fall here for a potential project, and if we get the grant, you'd be looking at construction next year.
Yeah. Biggest issues, Corey, as you look at the town, you're back in the town here. Biggest issues facing the town? Do you think the town's in pretty good shape now, or what do you see in the?
Yeah, I mean, the
town's
town,
future?
the finances are healthy. We're paying for all these projects. Two stormwater projects this year, and part of French Hill and Fairfax Street were stormwater as well. That's the utility paying for a good chunk of those, and I think we're going to get caught up. We're a few years behind on a few things, but not. We'll get those turned around and caught up here in the next few months, and I think it's just more blocking and tackling for the next few months, making sure there's always different types of leaders, and I think getting some of the minutia just caught up in a good spot is where we need to be.
Yeah. Compared with other towns in Franklin County, you deal with these folks. You mentioned you talked to Dominic Cloud. Do town managers, town administrators get together statewide once in a while?
There's a new city manager in Woodstock who had a hearing this past year. VLCT tries to do some things, but they talk, but there's not regular conferences or a lot of growth. Everyone's kind of focused on their own little communities, but I think it's where we could be missing the boat. I know I talked to Milton about some potential things. You look at some jobs in the town might be part-time, and can towns share them? And we do it really well with the city and the police department.
Yeah.
I think to get back to being efficient for taxpayer dollars, how does Fairfield wanted a zoning administrator for 8 hours a week? Well, you're probably not finding someone to take on that job.
Is that right? To 8 hours
I mean,
a week?
regional planning took it on, but that could be something that maybe in the future, municipality says, hey, we can do that for you. You just pay us, and we'll have our zoning administrator, kind of handle that workload. So I think it'd be better for more towns, and this isn't speaking anything specific, that they could find those efficiencies. But that's also tough because people feel they lose a little bit of local control, but you don't really, in my mind.
Talking about, again, Vermont not being the friendliest business-friendly place in the world. Has that changed with your years in the legislature, lobbyist, what you're doing now? Has that just not changed much?
No, because
Has it gotten worse? What do you think with Phil Scott's been governor for a long time,
I think at every level of government, it's really hard. You got your policymakers, whether it's your select board or your legislature, and then you get people who've been in staff who might not agree with the policy, and feet drag or things happen. And so, I've been very clear, to our staff, and not into anything in specific, but, the select board sets the policy, we execute it.
Yeah.
We're allowed to give feedback as they're developing policy, but once the policy's set, we go 100% in that direction. I don't think that always happens at the state level, because you'll see, even historic preservation right now, we're dealing with actually the Bay House issue. We had some concepts that would allow us, we think, to add life to the stone house. They didn't even let us insulate it because it wasn't historically insulated. So you're like,
so they wouldn't let you
well,
in?
a staff member, I'm going to make a few phone calls up the chain, but that's where you get into okay, well, what do we do with this facility then? You want us to spend millions and millions of dollars, but if we can't convince the taxpayers it's worth millions and millions of dollars to use 2 months a year.
Yeah.
So it's let us insulate it, let it eat it, let it keep its historic nature, but adjust it a little bit. And so people get really caught up into their minutia. It's you see it all across state government. And I think that's where, wetlands or, when I was last at the town, here's a good example. And this was something I did as a senator when when Haddad was coming in. They were hooking up the city water and sewer. And it took the state over 120 days to issue the wastewater permit, even though it was hooking up to an already permitted facility.
Really?
And I was the senator and director of operations of the town making weekly phone calls to try to get it going. And
It still took four months.
and to me, it should have been, it's in the pile. Well, pull it out of the pile. Say, it's hooking up to city water and sewer. Do they have capacity? Yes. Done. That's all in my mind. I get a septic taking time because you might have to actually look at engineering, but you have pipes. It goes into the pipe. The pipe's already been engineered. And it took a long, long time. So that's the kind of stuff that just is, I was talking to a developer from out of state, and he was a project, he goes, I could be shovel ready in the spring in the town. And I'm like, have you heard about Act 250? He goes, what's Act 250? And I explained it. So I go, town would love you, but just eyes wide open, and we'll do everything we can to help do this. This is the process would have to go through. And he's like, well, in Tennessee, I can just start building in 3 months. And that's what we, as a state, even as a town, we're not just competing with other towns, we're competing with other states, and there's a lot of interest to invest in the United States right now, just because of tariffs. And, we just saw Apple talk about another $100 billion investment. Other companies are doing that, and, my guess is the states that make it easier to build those facilities will get those facilities.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the tariffs, just anecdotally, you noting Canadian traffic, does that seem to be, I guess it's obviously down. You kind of notice that? You notice fewer Quebec plates around here, Corey or Jonathan?
I don't really notice it. I still see them going into the shopping center, going to TJ Maxx. I don't know if that has any relevance.
We haven't seen any numbers that hasn't impacted our local option tax numbers yet.
Yeah, is that right? That's holding up okay?
Yep.
Well, it sounds like it's certainly been an issue, though.
Oh, I'm sure it has. I was up in Maine earlier this summer, and they were noticing it. And
I just had some friends who went to Old Orchard Beach, and I think they said no, that issue. I think that's a famous place for Quebec Canadians to go, and just way down.
Yep.
Interesting. Down to about one minute. Any issues we haven't talked about? You want to spend a few seconds on here? Sounds like you covered a lot of ground.
Oh, I think the town's, as a resident, coming in and kind of digging into it is in fairly good shape. And I think primed. I've always been optimistic on the town because we have a good amount of land. We have a fairly low local tax base. We have revenue. We don't, some projects are not going to have to go borrow for because there's opportunity, already within our current.
And the new firehouse, that presumably would be paid for when that happens out of local option tax money also?
Yeah.
No, it sounds like that has served you pretty well.
Yeah, we'd probably take a loan again if we could find a 2.9 interest rate loan like we did for the town hall.
Did you really?
Yeah, I think it's like
Wow.
2.9. It's low.
You take
It's
that
low.
again.
Yeah, we did that for like 10 or 15 years.
So town's doing okay.
Yeah, I think we're in a good position.
Yeah.
I think as a town, we need to move forward on some of these projects, which we
Yeah.
have Corey working on, so
Yeah.
we're gonna keep going.
Okay, on that note, thanks to Jonathan Giroux, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman, Corey Parent,
Thank you very
interim
much.
town administrator, interim town manager. Get that straight. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks to my producer, Alan Cunningham. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. See you next time.